Hi guys, I hope you are well. So I'm sure we've all wondered about some of the dark and twisted spirits lurking in Welsh folklore. And for most people, seeing a ghost in itself is terrifying enough. But for those poor unfortunate souls, what they encounter in the next stories sends a shiver down the very spine. Hope you enjoy the collection of some of these stories with spirits of a more grotesque nature.
Edward Frank was a young man who lived in the parish of Lanternam. As he was walking home one night, he heard something walking towards him, but at first he could see nothing. Suddenly his way was barred by a tall, dismal object which stood in the path before him. It was the ghost of a marvellous thin man, whose head was so high above the observer's line of vision that he nearly fell over backward in his efforts to gaze at it. His knees knocked together and his heart sank. With great difficulty he gasped forth, "In the name of God, what is here? Turn out of my way, or I will strike thee!" The giant ghost then disappeared, and the frightened Edward, seeing a cow not far off, went towards her to lean on her to rest, which the cow stood still and permitted him to do so. Equally terrifying was the spectre seen by Thomas Miles Harry. He was coming home one night from Abergavenny when his horse took a fright at something which it saw, but at first Thomas could not. Very much terrified, he hastened to guide the animal into an adjoining yard and dismount, whereupon he saw the apparition of a gigantic figure of a lady. She was so tall, according to the account, that she was fully half as high as the tall beech trees on the other side of the road, and he hastened to hide from his eyes this awful sight by running into a nearby house, where he told his tale to the people gathered. Concerning this, Mr. Harry was described as of a affable disposition, not one to be taken by flights of fancy. There was also the strange story of Anne, the daughter of Herbert Jenkins, of the parish of Trefethin. Anne was a young woman well disposed to what is good, and one evening she was going to milk the cows. When she passed through a wood, she saw a horrible, shadowy figure standing by a holly tree. She had with her her dog, who also saw it, and ran to bark at it. All of a sudden, however, the creature stretched out a long black tongue, which terrified the dog, and which ran back to Anne's side, yelping, crying, and crawling all about her. She was in great terror at all this, but had the courage to still go on after the cows, which had strayed off into another field. She drove them back to her own field, and in passing the holly tree avoided looking that way, of fear of seeing this hideous creature once again. However, after she got safely by, she looked back and saw the monster once more. Very big in the middle and narrow at both ends, as it walked along the ground. The ground seemed to tremble under its heavy tread. It went towards a spring in a field called Ffynnon yr Ysbryd, the fountain of the spirit, where many ghosts had been seen before. It crossed over the stile and whistled so loud and strong that the narrow valley echoed and re-echoed with this terrifying sound. All of a sudden it then vanished, much to the young lady's relief.
So a couple of odd stories there, and what really made me laugh was the gentleman who threatened to strike the ghost, strike him down, and then took a rest on a nearby cow. The poor animal there. But it's very strange, some of these old stories, some of these old creatures people have claimed to encounter. And when we do these tours, many people always say to us, "I'd love to see a ghost, I'd love to see something paranormal." Would you really though? How would you actually react if you came face to face with such things? And I'm sure many of you watching have had some very strange experiences with certain spirits and certain creatures throughout the years. If you have, please let me know in the comments below. drop us an email, darkwales@hotmail.com. Love to hear your stories, love to hear your experiences, guys. And please remember to keep watching, remember to like and subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this one as much as me, and I'll be bringing you more stories very soon, guys. So thank you once again, and as always, remember, be careful out there. See you soon. Thank you.